As nations continue to battle the coronavirus pandemic, we've all witnessed the secondary effects of the virus. Extended lockdowns are impacting economies everywhere, threatening widespread recessions. But there's another potential global catastrophe on the horizon.
At the same time, while we're dealing with COVID-19 pandemic, we're also on the brink of a hunger pandemic.
The World Food Programme warns that the world now faces multiple famines of biblical proportions.
Our analysis shows that 300,000 people could starve to death every single day over a 3-month period. In a worst-case scenario, we could be looking at famine in about 36 countries. And in fact, 10 of these countries, we already have more than 1 million people per country who are on the verge of starvation.
There are currently 821 million people classified as food insecure in the world right now, with around 135 million classified as being in crisis.
Millions of civilians living in conflict-scarred nations, including many women and children, face being pushed to the brink of starvation, with the specter of famine a very real and dangerous possibility.
Here are some of the countries most at risk. Yemen remains the poorest country in the Arab world, and its humanitarian situation has been in steady decline since 2015, when a Saudi-led coalition began intervening in civil conflict in the country. Fighting on the ground has made access impossible in some areas, with reports that Houthi rebels were blocking foreign aid. Almost 2 decades since a US invasion post 9/11, more than half of Afghanistan's population is below the poverty line, with the World Food Programme estimating that 11 million are food insecure. Agriculture employs 70% of the country, and with global lockdowns slowing economies everywhere, there are fears that this could heavily affect imports and critical foreign aid which the country relies on desperately to survive. According to World Food Programme statistics, the DRC is the world's second largest hunger crisis. More than 15% of the country is completely dependent on foreign aid. The DRC is struggling to manage 500,000 refugees and 5 million people who are internally displaced. South Sudan's independence was supposed to end a long-running war, but just 2 years later the country fell into massive civil unrest. The World Food Programme says that almost 60% of the population are struggling to feed themselves daily. On top of this, South Sudan was also a victim to the locust swarms that tore across East Africa earlier this year, damaging masses of crops. The country is also heavily dependent on oil exports, and plummeting oil prices are severely damaging the economy. Venezuela has the world's largest oil reserves, but it has also been hit hard by global oil prices dropping, with Venezuelan oil valued at its lowest in 2 decades. Economic trouble had already hit the country early last year, leaving a third of the population in need of aid. As Venezuelans continue to flee, they are also contributing to the food crisis in neighboring countries. While the world struggles to recover from the coronavirus, it seems unlikely that anyone is truly prepared for what may come next.
If we don't prepare and act now to secure access, avoid funding shortfalls, and disruptions to trade, we could be facing multiple famines of biblical proportions within a short few months.